Welcome back into Buckeye Beat. I'm Noah Weiskopf, joined here as always by Tyler Danburg. As we look ahead to the game this weekend, number 4 Ohio State set to host the Nebraska Cornhuskers Saturday at noon. But before we get into what to watch for, the news that was expected became official this week as Ryan Day announced Tuesday that starting left tackle Josh Simmons suffered a season-ending knee injury in their loss against Oregon. Simmons will undergo surgery and remain sidelined for the remainder of the season. Just a devastating blow for not only Simmons, but the offensive line group as a whole. Simmons was a guy who was playing at an extremely high level in 2024, has not allowed a sack all season, only allowed one pressure thus far.
He really had made a lot of progress and was playing very, very well. So, big loss, but got an opportunity to, for another guy to step up.
He was looking to be a draft selection, and while he still could be, the unfortunate injury will likely hurt his stock, though. Zen Michalski will be the starting left tackle moving forward, and Ryan Day had high praise for the senior offensive lineman.
I thought he stepped up and did a nice job in the Oregon game. He's a veteran guy who's played a lot of football.
Tyler, I know we touched on it a bit last episode. How important do you think it is for a guy like Zen to have guys like Donovan Jackson, Seth McLaughlin, those veteran-type leaders here on the early stages of his starting career?
So incredibly important. Jackson, McLaughlin, and Josh Fryer, the right tackle, have combined for 88 starts at the collegiate level, packing plenty of experience to help Michalski on that line. We heard from Travion Henderson, the running back, yesterday at media availability, and he said how hard Zen was working behind Simmons and had a lot of praise for him and what he brings to the left tackle position. The left side of that line is going to be a crucial position group to watch against the Cornhuskers defense.
100%. And now Nebraska specifically stands at 5-2 with an overall record, including a 2-2 in the Big Ten. Most recently, the Cornhuskers fell to undefeated and number 13 Indiana 56-7 last weekend in an absolute beatdown in Bloomington. But the big storyline for Nebraska is freshman quarterback Dylan Raiola. As a lot of you may know, Raiola previously committed to Ohio State before he committed to Georgia, then decommitted, now at Nebraska. The key here, or Tyler, what do you think the key here is for Raiola coming into the shoe? Not an atmosphere he's ever been in with 100,000 plus watching him.
And he's been there for recruiting visits, so he has a little bit of an idea what to expect. And playing in Lincoln, too, is no hostile environment to be thought about differently, because that's a great atmosphere. I think taking care of the football is the biggest thing for Raiola. He has 9 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, but 3 of those coming in last week's 56-7 loss to the Hoosiers. If he can limit takeaways and get into an early rhythm with his receivers, especially I think Thomas Fidone, the second, his tight end, it can make for an interesting challenge for Ohio State's defense. Got
to start hot if you're Nebraska, but I agree with you completely. The biggest key is something Raiola has struggled with a bit. We know his indecisiveness off the field with commitment. In the recruiting process, but on the field, he needs to be decisive in his decision-making early on, like we mentioned. Raiola's tied for second most interceptions in the Big Ten with 6 already this season, like you said. More specifically, for this Buckeyes defense, they must generate pressure against an inferior opponent in Nebraska. A week ago, Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau, and company failed to record a sack, something they seem to be waiting patiently to just naturally come, and it's taken a bit of time, something this team has honestly talked about a lot for a long time. They must wreak havoc in the backfield against the freshman quarterback, but it really seems like this defense, as of late, has beat up teams that they're better than and struggled in big-time games. Nevertheless, this is one that they need to dominate to build confidence heading into Penn State next weekend.
Well, according to CFB Film Room, Sawyer and Tuimoloau have the 2 highest pressure rates in the Big Ten. However, they only have 3.5 sacks combined. This could be a big bounce-back week overall for the Buckeyes defense against the Cornhuskers offense that was held to just a touchdown last week against Indiana.
And offensively, I'm not looking for really anything specific. Ohio State seemed to shy away a bit from the run game in the second half against Oregon. I'm looking for Quinshawn Judkins, Travion Henderson to get a lot of work early and run all over this Cornhusker team. Defensively for Nebraska, though, quarterback Will Howard said Tuesday that the Cornhuskers actually run a similar scheme to what Kansas State, his former school, did when he was there.
They run an interesting defense. They run a little 3-3-5 defense. It's actually pretty similar to what I went against at K-State. So I'm excited for the challenge. I think they got a good team. I know they're going to be hungry after last week.
So some familiarity there for Howard, and that can help keep this offense in a groove. But for Nebraska, I'm really looking at senior defensive tackle Ty Robinson. He's tied for the team lead in sacks with 4, and he's in his 6th collegiate season, so a seasoned veteran. What are you looking for in this one, Tyler?
I'm with you, partner. I think it comes down to how Ohio State's running game fares against Nebraska's front line, especially. Tony White, in his second year, runs that unique 3-3-5 defense, and his linemen are big. They can stop the run. You look down the line, Jamari Butler, Nash Hutmaker, also a Nebraska wrestler. Obviously, you mentioned Ty Robinson. There's a lot of different options on that line for Tony White. Quinshon Judkins, I think, could have a big game. He doesn't put the ball on the ground a lot. He did that against Oregon. He also did score a touchdown, but it seems like that is overshadowed by that Derek Harmon forced fumble, which was basically based off of brute strength. If Judkins can have a big game, I think there is plenty of praise and success on the horizon for the All-American.
And you know Judkins got a chip on his shoulder after everyone talking about that fumble. Not something he does too often. Okay, the moment everyone's waiting for. Here we go for our game picks. Number 4, Ohio State against the Cornhuskers from Nebraska. The Buckeyes are favored by right around 25 points on most major sports books, and coming off a loss, then a bye week, I think Ohio State gets a win in a big-time way this weekend against Nebraska. I picked the Buckeyes to cover the 25-point spread and get blown out for a second consecutive week. What do you say, Tyler?
Well, people are watching to tune in to see if we disagree with each other. After the first 6 weeks, we haven't done any disagreeing, and it's going to stay the same for another week. I think Ohio State wins 42-10, but most of the points that Ohio State puts up are in the second half. I do believe they crossed the 500-yard threshold, but Nebraska's got a lot to play for. They're coming off a 56-7 onslaught, and they have a lot to play for. Ohio State, they've scored 91 points in the third quarter this year already. I think they're going to get past 100 points in the third quarter after this weekend.
100%. That'll do it for another episode of Buckeye Beat. Reminder, Ohio State, Nebraska, noon on Fox this Saturday. Everyone enjoy the game. For Tyler Danburg, I'm Noah Weiskopf. We'll be back next week recapping Nebraska and, well, previewing a pretty big-time game.